In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to unwrap your mesh to a UV layout, export it into a photo editing program, add your own textures, delete the UV layout, and then export that back into Blender and use it in a render. Okay, first to start off you're going to need a mesh to use. So you can use whatever you want. Keep it simple if this is your first time creating a texture, as it can get complex with lots of faces and vertices. Okay, so we're going to be adding a texture to the black body of the penguin. We're going to leave the beak, the eyes, and the eyelids and the feet, as they don't really need a texture anyway. Now first select the object that you're going to unwrap. It might be a good idea to hide everything else or move it to another layer. Now select the object, go into edit mode, press A until all the vertices are selected, and then go to UV editing. Now all you have to do is simply press U and click unwrap. Now you might not get a result like that because your mesh probably won't be the same as this one, and also if that is messy what the result is, or unusable, then try a Smart UV project and just leave the default values. That's what I did and I got this. It's just split it into 4 faces or so, 6 faces as if it was a cube. It's got the top, the bottom, the 2 sides, and the front and the back. Now you can play around with these to rearrange them into a more human readable format. So go ahead and turn synchronization selection on. All this does is when you select something in the 3D window, it selects it in the UV editing window, so that way you know for sure which faces are which. So go ahead and turn off leave on limit selection to visible. Make sure that's on, and then just go and select all of the front. Okay, so that's shown us that this island here is the front face, and obviously those are the 2 sides, and that's the bottom, that's the top, because we only selected half of them because that's all it could see from the angle that you selected. Now, for the penguin, I'm planning it to be completely black except for a white circle on the front, just a generic penguin look. So I'm going to select all of these other islands. I don't need synchronization anymore because I've figured out which one is the front one. Just going to get all the others, scale them down, and get them out of the way. I would never do this if I was using actual bitmaps as textures and not just a solid black color, as scaling them down like that would produce very pixelated textures, but because I'm just using a solid black texture, then it's absolutely fine. So I'm going to give myself some room to work with and straighten it up. Okay, now we have our UVs organized. We're going to select all of them and go UVs, export UV layout. Okay, so I'm going to export it into a new directory called tutorial. Whoa, that was not meant to happen. So we'll go into tutorial, and I'm going to save it as text tutorial, export UV layout. Okay, now you need to go into Photoshop, this one, and change these instructions if you're using the GIMP or another Photoshop like program. But all I'm going to do is create a new layer and get the black fill brush, where is it, there, and fill everything. And I'm actually going to turn the opacity of this layer down so I can still see my layout. And then I'm going to use a shape, if I can find it, because I haven't used Photoshop in ages. There. And I'm going to go white. And all you have to do is that. Now if we... Actually, I think that should be a little wider. Never mind. I will just draw it again. There we go, that's a bit better. And now we're going to make that layer not visible. Gonna merge down and opacity right back up. It's taken the opacity from the other layer back down to that one, so we're gonna have to undo. Make this one full opacity and merge down. And we've got this layer hidden, so we won't see that. We shouldn't. We're gonna go File, Save As. Make sure you don't leave it as Photoshop, because that Blender won't import that properly. So whatever format you want, it's fine. PNG is usually the best, as that supports transparency, so it's good to get used to. And we're going to save it as just tux text. Okay. I'm going to go back into Blender and image, open image, and tutorial tux text. There we go. Now it is slightly off center. I can't see why that is. Oh, the UV is slightly off. So as you can see, I didn't do it perfectly in line in Photoshop, but that's easy to fix. All I do is move it across till it's corrected. Now I probably should have gotten Blender to unwrap with more of the connected faces, so that way I could have made the white patch larger, as it looks like it should be a bit larger, but I'm going to have to stick with about that for now. And it looks like it's getting cut off here, so we're going to need to grab the bottom of the penguin, drag that over, and you can see that as I put it over the white, it's updating instantly, and so you can see that it goes white as I put it over. So we're just going to drag it down up there, and we're going to rotate till we find the right direction. Going to get some more detail. This will probably be very pixelated. Actually, maybe not so much. So you can see I'm just scaling it and tweaking it to get the right look. Oh, almost got it. And then it's just a matter of playing with it till you can't see any visible difference. There, that's fairly close. So we've got our white stomach, and let's put all our layers back in, and let's go for a render, and you can see it now has a white stomach. If yours ends up not applying whatever texture you have done, make sure to go to material settings. So we'll go back to the default layout and material, and go down and find face textures and make sure that's ticked, because that just lets the UV layout texture override the diffuse color that you've set. So if we untick that, you'll see it doesn't work, and it just defaults to the diffuse color, which is black. So if we went to change that to a weird blue color, it'd go blue, but when we go back to face textures, the texture overrides that. So if you had a transparent texture, so parts of this were transparent, then where they were transparent, the diffuse color would show through. So that's a good way you can use UV layout textures as just a way to add detail in certain areas and keep your base diffuse color. So that's how to export UV layouts from Blender and add a texture in Photoshop and export them back into Blender again.